Well, hello there again, friends. Today is 6/14/2022, and today is the Odin Project Vlog Day 119. Um, I am on the JavaScript module Dynamic User Interface Interactions, 31% complete. Um, so, I wasn't sure how I wanted to handle this module in the beginning. I read through it all a couple different times, and I was trying to debate how I wanted to do it. There's no projects to do in the traditional sense, but there are three what I would call mini projects: drop-down menus, mobile menus, and image slider. And so I just started working basically and just got to coding, and I was just like, well, I'll just move a little bit with this and see what happens. Anyway, I got bogged down with the drop-down menus, and so today's video is just going to be about drop-down menus. So we'll go over the code. I completed the mini project, and then I spent quite a bit of time on bundling it, modulating it to publish it to NPM. And I just about gave up on it because I was having quite a bit of issue with it, just learning it basically. No real big issue, just a couple error messages. And then I finally got it, and I'll show you the result of that at the end here. And so I felt pretty good about it, and especially when they say publishing your own code, your own modules to make you feel like a pro, and it did. Especially when I got it to work after a few hang-ups. Um, so with all that said, let's hit the editor. So I'm going to start off by just kind of going over this. Actually, I probably need to back up for a second. So drop-down menu is basically says you know what we're talking about here. Picture a nav bar or a button when you click in the menu. Click it in the menu slides down nicely. As mentioned previously, you already know everything you need to create this element. Here are some things to keep in mind. And then there's some things here. You can allow the menu to show up either on click or on hover. You should hard code the menu items in your HTML, but hide or reveal them using JavaScript. You can do this either by adding a class, visible, or something. I used a class called visible, you'll see in the code, or by manually setting the style in JavaScript. 3. Make sure the code is reusable. You should be able to create multiple drop-downs on a page without repeating the JavaScript code. And then it talks about try bundling it and publishing it to NPM. So to start off, as usual, I created, I'm not going to go through this part, but I created the repo on GitHub and then cloned it down locally. And then per this guide here, it takes you to this link here. And before I started putting code on the screen at all, you have to do some initial setup. So I perused all these, many of these different links. That's what took me quite a bit of while actually, is just doing a lot of research of how to, because they don't really teach you how to do this. So, which is fine. Not meaning to be spoon-fed. So I went to this link here, creating and publishing Unscoped public packages. So since we're not part of an organization, we're kind of on our own. We're not a paid member of NPM, so I figured we'd be an Unscoped public. So I basically followed this guide. So I created the repo, and then cloned it down, and then went into the directory of my clone project, and then ran git init, which gave me an error because I'd already linked up my git by that point because I cloned it down. So basically, you can skip this part. You do need to run the remote add origin to your package though. So run that piece, and then run npm init, and then basically that creates your package.json file, which you can go over here if you need help packaging the name guidelines. But it creates this file right here, and so it basically goes through just like we did with Webpack. It goes through, you ask you a bunch of questions and you answer them on the CLI, and based on how you answer them is how this is filled out, and then it pulls your repo once you run that Git origin line I just mentioned. You need to run the Git remote add this. So add your repo then, and adds all it in there mostly automatically. So we'll make one change here at the end. I'll show you why I did that here in a little while when it makes more sense. But so that gets everything started. So once you've done that, you create your README file, and then basically this talking about, they're just recommending updating your README file with explaining what this is and how it's going to be used, because that's how NPM users will see it, and then code it up in step 7. So that's where we're at here. So, and then I went ahead and hit the HTML here, and created an index.html, created our usuals, index.js. I could have used script.js, but you have to call index.js for the NPM builder to work. So imagine that just being script.js. Don't let index.js throw you off, because I originally had to go through that in my mind. This is not Webpack. It's not doing any pre-bundling or anything like that, so you don't have to have source or destination folders, because I did originally have those. And then these package JSON files get created through the init process, and add your style sheet. So we're going to link everything just hard-coded in. So there's our link for our style sheet, and then there's our script tag for our index.js. So in the HTML, we're just creating a basic simple dropdown. So we have a div class of dropdown, a button class of dropdown menu button, and that's going to say dropdown menu. And then I have a div ID of my dropdown and a class of dropdown-content for another interior div, and that's going to house our 3 fictitious menu items, and they're hrefed nowhere, just placeholders, and then end your div tags, and that's going to be it for the. So over here on the CSS, we are targeting up here a drop-down menu button. So this is the CSS for the menu button itself. We got that lighter blue shade there for the color. We got white for the color of the text, padding and font size of 16 pixels each. Border none, so take the border away from the button, and cursor will be pointer, which excuse me. Apparently I haven't went through puberty yet. Just kidding. Pointer just means when you hover over the button, it'll change it from cursor to pointer. Drop down menu button hover, and also drop down menu button focus. So that's what it sounds like. We've learned about that before quite a while ago in CSS. Hover will be when your mouse is over the top of the button, and focus is when you click. So we're going to change the background color to something slightly darker when we hover and focus. And then the drop down, this is targeting the entire div itself of class drop down. So we're going to create a relative position and inline block display for the and that's so we can get a drop down looking box, and then you'll see that in the demonstration. And drop down content. So this is targeting the class of drop-down content in the div that has the anchor tags inside of it. So we're going to do a display of none. We're doing that because we're going to use JavaScript to, as per the requirements, we're going to use JavaScript to turn on and off visible, which you see is down here, and that display turns on and off block. So by default, it's none. So basically everything inside of the anchor tags won't be showing on page load. Position is absolute, meaning we want to position it exactly where it is. We don't want to do relative based on its parent. Background color is that off-white. Excuse me. Tourette's is active. Woo. Too much caffeine today. Min width is 160 pixels, meaning we want the minimum width to be 160. Box shadow, so we have a box shadow of 0, 8, 16, 0, and an RGBA color scheme of 0, 0, 0, and 0.2. And so that creates the drop shadows for the box of the content for the aref, the anchor tags. And a z-index of 1, we went over this one time in one project quite a while ago, so you may not remember z-index, but basically how I understand it is basically it's a stacking mechanism, and you can provide a z-index of a value, and if you do, that will take precedence over everything else. So when we're in stacking the boxes of positioning levels, you use this particularly with the position level. So when we say z-index of 1 and position absolute on this drop-down content, this will take the z-index will take this drop-down content, which is this right here, will take precedence over any other drop-down targeting. So like the anchor tags and the drop-down itself. So when the CSS runs, that takes precedence. And then we have drop-down content A, so we're targeting here the anchor tags, color black, padding 12 and 16 relative, padding 12 pixels and 16 pixels there. Text decoration of none, so we're going to remove on anchor tags, there's going to be an underline for the link, where we're just removing that with text decoration, and display is block. And then we have drop-down content A hover. So this is when you hover the mouse over the anchor tag, we want to change the background color to this other off color white of D. And you'll see that that's just the aspect of when we drop down the menu and we hover over the anchor tag, we want to highlight it a little bit different of a color, so just for visual aesthetics. And so that's what that does. And the index.js is pretty short and sweet, so I'm just going to expand this a bit. We got 2 click events. The first one is for the button and display menu. So we're creating a constant drop-down button that takes on query selector drop-down menu button, and then we're taking drop-down button and adding event listener to it, and then we're calling the display drop-down menu local function and invoking that right here below when it's clicked. So if the drop-down button is clicked, we're going to call and grab the my drop-down button, and we're going to toggle the class list to visible, and that's what I was talking about earlier. So we're going to show the visible the visible display block, and that's going to then show the anchor tags. And then we're going to have the click event for window off button. Basically, that's the off button click that hides the menu. So this gives this the flexibility. So if you click the menu, now I'll demonstrate this to you here momentarily. But if you click off of the menu and you want it to hide, this is what happens. So we have an event listener that clicks for click, and then it invokes a local function hide drop down menu, and it registers that event and passes in as a parameter. And I have an if statement in here that says if event dot target, which means so we're targeting the event of each click inside the window. And I probably should say this, we haven't worked on this too much. So window is not defined in my JS because window is a global variable, and and you can target that with an event listener. So when we do that, we're going to do document.getElementById my dropdown, and we're going to remove that class list of visibles. So basically if the event target is not the drop-down button, meaning the mouse has clicked and created an event click anywhere else on the screen in the viewport, we are going to remove visible, and then that drop-down with the anchor tags is going to hide. Still be there in HTML, but we're going to hide it. So that's that. So let's take a look at this. Pretty simple here. So I'm hovering over. I got the little mouse cursor there, or the pointer, as per the CSS. So we click, and then menu option. See how it highlights there at the little grayer box. I click it and it goes away. So this is mimicking going to the different pages or whatever it may be. And then you see the menu goes away. And then also, if I click on it but don't click anything in there, and I click over here, the menu also goes away per that what we just went over in the second window.add event listener in the JavaScript. So that's that. Then after I created all that, I won't show my terminals because you have to submit passwords and OTP credentials, and it's clear text on my end on the terminal. So I didn't want to. I don't want to show that to you guys for obvious reasons. But what you do is you need to go out, and if you haven't done so by this point, you need to go out and create an NPM account. And I think they might mention that in here, up here, yeah. Before you can publish any unscoped NPM packages, you must sign up for an NPM user account. So go ahead and do that if you haven't done so already, and then you come back down here, and we want to test the package. So you're going to do npm install and then my package, whereas my package is the location that your local package is sitting. In my instance, my command I put in was I think it was C user or home user Justin. Basically, it's going out to this drop-down menu package folder in the Odin project, and if you run it from that menu, because that's where Git sits, and that's also where the package JSON file sits, it will basically mock up the testing and the bundling of the package to ensure it works. You want to do that to make sure you don't have any bugs, just like it says here. To reduce the chances of bugs, we recommend testing your package before publishing it. So after you get a successful test package there, you publish it by basically going to the root of the command line where you're at. And in my instance, I was staying right where I was at. So basically getting the command line down to the drop-down menu package folder inside of my projects, and then just simply running npm publish. And when you run that, it goes through a series of things. It enumerates and creates a SHA-SUM algorithm, and then it'll tell you if you had any errors or if it was a success on screen, and then you're able to go afterwards once that completes, and you'll see it here. So here's mine. First one, felt pretty good about it. So there's my package out there on the world for the world to see, and you see it says at Justin 217-2021, a simple drop-down menu package using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So what I had to do, one of my errors I received in the command line was I basically this was too generic of a file name. It basically is telling me it exists someone else or other packages that exist out there with similar names. So it said to go back and rename my project with @ and my username in front of it with a / like that. And so I did that, resaved it, repushed it to GitHub, and then reran the publish, and then used the switch and it says on screen, there's no documentation on this last part, but it says use switch of I think it was npm space publish and then forwards and then space -- create equals public, I think, or something like that. It shows you in the command line if you get the error. It'll tell you exactly what you got to do, and then that's essentially why it shows up like this. So otherwise it would just say drop down menu package, and it would be in the wild without my name on it. It's still tied to my account no matter what, but it just looks a little bit different here. So if you click on this, you can go down and see this. This is coming right out of my README file, which is reading it from my GitHub. And of course, it's linked to my GitHub repo. That's interesting. It's got a home page. I didn't even click on that. But anyway, you can install it here by targeting my username at drop-down menu. So that's pretty cool. So my first package, and it's out there in the open. So anyway, that'll be it for today. Thank you for coming along on the journey today. I hope you learned a little bit along the way. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content. And let me know in the comments section how you guys are doing with this, and if you're able to successfully push your package to NPM. So with all that said, till next time, see ya.